especially our speakers, who will be introduced by Dr. Abby Stout. Some of you are here to our social justice forums for the first time. We want to be sure that you're on the mailing list. So if you didn't get a chance to sign up and write your email address, print your email address really clearly. That way you can easily read it and put it on the list. I want to tell you about next week. We're having consecutive forums. A week from now, we're going to have a forum on the issue of the city council and the mayor trying to implement this plan to take 40% of the space in this library. 40% of the space in this library on this side in order to cram in a cultural site, a Mexican-American cultural site. How many of you think it's a good idea to take almost half of the library to put a cultural center? Let me see hands of people who think it's a good idea. You know, several of us have been asking this question over the last few months because we have had petition drives, we have had forums, we have talked to a lot of people. I've yet to find one person who thinks it's a good idea to do this to the library. Why don't they why don't they plan to put the Mexican-American Cultural Center in its own building? Yeah. They want to do it on the cheap, or there's a rumor that the local oligarchs who contribute money to some of these city council people, that the local oligarchs, this is a rumor, I don't know how true this is, but let's put it in context. The Mexican-American Cultural Institute Board proposed that this cultural center be placed at the Abraham Chavez Theater. And the city, for some reason, didn't go along. At first they did, and then they didn't, and then they started looking at the library. Well, the rumor is that the oligarchs want to bring down the whole civic center to put a soccer arena there. A soccer arena. They're not satisfied with this arena they want to build in Duranguito. They want to have their baseball park, their soccer arena, and then what kind of arena would it be? Multi-purpose, but they want to put boxing matches, and I don't know what the hell else. Yeah. And I'm into sports, but this is too much. This is too much to be doing this kind of thing. And because they want a soccer arena, they're going to butcher this library. How many saw the editorial, the op-ed in today's paper? It's an op-ed that says, city leaders, get your hands off the library. Now, if you feel strongly about this, would you please write an email or a letter or make a phone call to the city representatives? We need to do that. We need to do that. And if you could do it this coming week and then be here next week when we're going to have this forum. And Jaime Esparza, our district attorney, who is on that board of the Mexican-American Cultural Institute, he's going to present the viewpoint of that group. That was the group that worked for years to conceptualize this center that has been hijacked by the city. And the city wants to shove it into this building here. So he's going to be here, and we're going to have a couple of people from the Friends of the Library. Make sure I get this right. Marshall Laboda, Marshall here? And Gretchen Trominski. Gretchen here? Okay, well, they're going to be here next time because they're speakers. They're going to present the viewpoint of the Friends of the Library. And we're all friends of the library. I haven't met an enemy of the library yet. We're all friends of the library. And what about the viewpoint of the city? I invited Sissy Lizarraga, who took a few days to respond, too much time to respond. She said, no, I can't make it. And then I invited Claudia Ordaz Perez, and she hasn't responded yet. The next guy, I'm sure she'll say, no, I can't make it.
She's
Next guy.
her husband.
I'm sure.
Yes, I know her husband. And the next one I'm going to invite is Peter Sparks. Let's see what he says. So that's next week. We invite all of you to be here. Next week, we invite you to write emails, letters to the city council. Please, please, help this library stay whole and not be decimated the way they want it to be decimated. Okay, another announcement. I have these invitations here from the Border Network for Human Rights. I'm on the board of that organization, and we're having an awards dinner, and it's scheduled for April the 13th at St. Pius Catholic Church. And if you're interested in getting a ticket, I have tickets. $50 a person. I'm trying to sell a table. If you don't buy tickets, then I'm going to be stuck with the whole deal, the whole bill. Okay? So please let me know if you would like to attend this great event where a number of people who have been helping with the needs of the migrants, they're going to be honored for their outstanding work. Finally, yes, Kathy, like you don't go over time. We don't pay our speakers, but we give them a copy of this great publication published by our group. And the good news for the rest of you is that last year we ran a special that we are continuing this year for half price, $5. You can get a copy of this publication that tells you why Mexico is poorer than the United States, and it explains why. It explains how the United States has shaped the destiny of Mexico. Okay? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy so she doesn't chew me out later.
Thank you, Oscar. Pardon me for saying it's time to wrap up your section. I have the great pleasure of, in a moment, introducing to you our distinguished panel of people who will talk about redistricting and the importance of fair representation in U.S. politics. But before I do that, I do want to acknowledge how the League of Women Voters helped to get this issue started and mobilized in El Paso with a huge event that took place at El Paso Community College last fall. Do I see some EPCC students in the room? Could you raise your hand if you are here? Yay. Yay. Or UTEP students? Are there any UTEP students? At that event, we learned a lot of new things. We had several experts come and talk, including Representative Lina Ortega, Cito Negron from Senator Rodriguez's office, and Mary Gonzalez's chief of staff, who is Joshua Carter Guerra. And so a representative from Fair Maps El Paso was also involved and continues to be involved. Is that person here? Okay, well, let me thank Judy. Judy and other members of the League of Women Voters, could you please stand up? Because in a way, you're informally co-sponsoring this event. Yeah. Okay, just a few sentences about how important this issue is. Many people wonder and worry if our political system is rigged. You heard the word oligarchs a few minutes ago. You all know about the Electoral College and how, the person who won the popular vote by 3 million wasn't able to take office last time around. And redistricting is a part, districting borders are part of the problem here. Oftentimes in many states, there is a partisan connection to the way that boundary lines are drawn, and you're going to hear much more about that from the panelists. And what ends up happening is that the majority party in power gets an advantage for getting reelected. So we have a lot of incumbents who are serving. Right now in the state of Texas, the majority party is the one who is advantaged by this, but in past decades and the past century, Democrats also were sometimes advantaged by this process. So we have to wonder, is our system rigged? And if so, how can we fix that? I don't want to overuse the security threat metaphor too much, but there was an article in the Guardian, which is a British paper that goes worldwide, that talks about the districting and gerrymandering processes as the real security threat. So I think we need to think about this maybe in a crisis-oriented way. So on that note, let me introduce to you our distinguished panelists. We have from the League of Women Voters, Jesus Valdez. He will go first. Then we have Connie Crawford, who will, and Jesus will talk about the state and national processes. Connie will focus on the county, because not only are our congressional districts malformed, and state districts malformed, but also at the county and city level, we have these similar kinds of problems. After Connie Crawford, who has spoken for the forum once before, we will have Eric Willard, who will talk about the city and how that works. And then our final panelist is Paulina Lopez, who is from 2020 census. She will talk about the census and the importance of accurate counting. And I think we all need to wonder what is the connection between an accurate count and fair representation, so that we truly have one person, one vote in fair representative systems. Now, I have asked the panelists to respond to 3 questions, because I got this idea from Dr. Eva Moya in one of our last sessions. She asked a question and then she timed the responses. So my first question for panelists will be, what is the problem? What is the problem? The second question will be, what are some solutions to the problem? And then the third question is a call to action for all of us. What should we do about this problem? And here's the hitch. Each question will get 10 minutes for a response. And I have my trusty iPhone here, and I will time the responses, and an alarm will go off after 10 minutes. So I hope that we can keep a nice, quick pace on this panel, and then open it up to all of you for questions and responses. So let me begin then with Mr. Valdez.
Well, thank you everybody for showing up, and I'll try my best to speak fast before Kathy puts a hook on me. But she's right. We all need to be aware of what the problem is, and Kathy already mentioned to it, and I'm going to talk with regards to the U.S. District maps. And here's the proof of what Kathy just said, that the party who's in power to draw the maps are able to get a higher representation as the number of voters they have. So here in 1992, when Democrats were in control of both houses, they roughly had about 49% of the vote, and yet they got near 70% of the seats. Okay? Move the clock forward, in 2016, almost the exact opposite. Republicans were in control, okay, and they had roughly 56% of the voters, and they got almost 70% of the seats. Okay, so there's something wrong, and what's wrong is that there's a problem in our representative democracy. Now, one of the common people here, we have an expectation of what we'd like those districts to be. And we want them to be compact, and we want them to be, that they would have some kind of commonality of interest, okay? And here, the caricature, you know, there's a, you know, citizen Joe asking the powers that be, you know, to have an open mind when you draw those things. But they're thinking, oh, I can draw weird maps to favor me. So that goes contrary to what our forefathers meant. One person, one vote, people choose their representatives. The sad reality is that it's the other way around. Now it is the representatives, especially the incumbent representatives, if you're from the ruling party, okay, that decide who the constituents are, okay? And one of the prime examples of that, and this is close to my heart because I have a daughter that goes to Texas State University in San Marcos. That is the drawing of a congressional district. Anywhere from clawing part of San Antonio up Highway 35 north and clawing part of Austin, okay? And the map on your right shows how even in San Marcos, which is between those two cities, okay, they went street by street to choose their voters, okay? Now, it's with the advent of good, sophisticated mapping software, they're able to do this at that minute level, down to the street level, okay? And what does that happen? What happens is that now you have a situation where in order to achieve your goals of getting a higher representation of seats than your current vote, okay, there's part of the redistricting process that says, I'm gonna create a safe district. I'm gonna bunch a whole bunch of people from this one party, okay, so that the rest of the people are spread across other districts, okay, in order for us to get the majority. Okay? And, you know, what that leads is that by creating so-called safe districts, the incumbents are saying, well, you know, I don't need to worry about it, okay, because I'm gonna get reelected. So that creates two things. First of all, it's a polarization, because if they come from a safe district, they're not gonna be willing or wanting to negotiate with the other party on issues. And the other thing, it creates apathy. So when you go out there and you're gonna try to cast your vote, if you know that who's gonna win anyhow, okay, you know, then you naturally say, well, why should I bother, okay? And we've seen the low voter turnout, especially here in El Paso. I think a lot of it may be just apathy. So, I'm gonna talk very briefly about what the process is in the drawing of US congressional districts. Every year after, not every year, every 10 years after the census, okay? And Paulina will talk more about that, and some of the other speakers will talk more about it. We have what is the apportionment of districts to the states, okay? The fixed number is 435 districts nationwide, okay, and that's been in existence since 1912. Okay. In the 2010 census, Texas was granted 36 congressional districts, and that was a +4, I believe, from the previous census. Okay. In the 2020 census, Texas has continued to grow, okay? So we're expecting to get 2 or 3 additional congressional districts. So think about it. If we get more congressional districts, then the map are gonna have to be changed in a significant manner. And who knows, maybe they'll break down the way El Paso is partitioned. That happens to be just a map of which state has so many districts. We are the second largest behind California. California with 53, we're with 36, okay? And the way that this map become law is the same way that any bill goes through the Texas legislature. Okay? They get introduced, and the maps that they get drawn at the Texas, at the state level, is the U.S. House of Representatives, both houses of the Texas legislature, okay, and also the State Board of Education. So there's a committee in the House of Representatives that is a standing committee that is their charter to draw these maps, okay? And right now, by Senate rules, the members of that committee are picked half by seniority, and the other half is picked by the Secretary of, by the Speaker of the House, I'm sorry. So right now, if you look at the composition of that group, it is heavily with Republicans, as you might expect. They draw the maps, they submit it in a bill, and the governor can choose to approve it or not approve it, okay? If he rejects it, okay, then our Constitution says, okay, then there is a legislative redistricting board that is composed of the Lieutenant Governor, Speaker of the House, Attorney General, Comptroller, and Commissioner of General Land Office, okay, who are now given the charter of creating the map, and their end result, okay, cannot be questioned. They simply get submitted to the Secretary of State and they become law. So this is what we're looking at in terms of the process that we have to go through. Okay. So we'll talk about what are some of the ways to fix that. And a very popular way that's now being embraced by quite a few states. There's currently 6 states in the nation that have some manner of independent redistricting commission. And basically what they're trying to do is, let's take away that process away from the legislature and let's put it on a citizen-led commission, okay? And there are many ways to get that done, okay? And we have some excellent examples in states like California, in Pennsylvania, and others, in such a way that if you look at a map, everything in yellow are states that want to keep things in the legislature, okay? Everything in green, they have some version of an independent redistricting commission, okay? So the message I want to leave is that when you draw the maps and you draw them to your benefit, okay, whether you're in one party or the other, okay, that's called gerrymandering, okay? And the sad thing is that gerrymandering is easy to do, okay? With the advent of software, it's very easy to do, okay? So we need to take that process away from the legislator and put it into the people, okay? So with that, you want me to introduce Kyle?
Yes.
Okay.
And remember, you have time to finish this in the second question, which is, what do we need to do to fix this?
Okay. I'll take just another 20 seconds. There's a call of actions. You've already been exposed to signing a petition. Connie is gonna now talk about redistricting at the county level.
about some statewide mechanics before we talk about what happens in the county. I'm gonna do a little, this is looking at the future. This is why the census is important and gets us down into the weeds at the county and the city level. So I'm not gonna read this to you, but that's why these timelines are so important. Pauline is here doing her work. The official day where the numbers count, our official platform about that is April 1st. And then going forward from there, but at the end of 2020, the president gets the numbers from the Census Bureau, goes to Congress, the states get their numbers. In the 2010 census, it was 689, so, más o menos 700,000 people. The next census per district, except in those 7 states where they don't even have 700,000 people, so they don't have to worry about it, 7 of those. So maybe it'll be, 750,000 more or less. So everybody has to shuffle around. States will gain seats, states will lose seats. So look at this timetable. The legislature, hold on, I'm going back. The Texas legislature meets only in odd numbered years. So they're gonna get this information shortly after the president and Congress do, sometime in that spring of 2021. The Texas legislature meets roughly from the beginning of January to the end of May. So look at the timetable they have to follow to get this done. It's a pretty tight timetable. So is the legislative, the district board, the LRB gonna take care of it? Is the governor gonna call the legislature into special session? I mean, we don't know. And I'm gonna talk just briefly in a minute about how it happened after the 2000 census and the 2010 census. But keep looking at the timetable. This has gotta happen pretty quickly because people have to file for election in 2022. So, and again, the legislature only meets on even odd numbered years, so they've gotta really get with the program to get that done. So briefly, here's what happened after the 2000 census in Texas. When Texas got 4 new seats, that's a lot. The regular session didn't act. But the legislative redistricting board did. The Department of Justice, as most of you are aware, had until recently had to do what's called a pre-clearance process for all of these changes. Well, the plan for Congress for those congressional seats didn't pass muster with the Department of Justice. So they had to do it again in the 2013 legislature, on and on. Many of you were around when the killer D's, the killer Democrats who went to Oklahoma and then to New Mexico. That was all part of this, to avoid having a quorum because the D's didn't like what the R's were doing. As a result, between that and the Department of Justice and the litigation, 5 seats didn't get decided until 2006. In 2010, it wasn't quite as bad. Texas got 2 new seats. The regular session redistricted the state senate and the state house of representatives, but not the congressional seats. So there were special sessions, more litigation. The courts then ordered some changes. So the legislature had, when they met again in the next odd number year, 2013, they had to deal with what the courts had ordered, on and on and on. And I think the last 2 seats weren't really settled until just before the 2018 general election. So it gets really, really crazy. So that's kind of a baseline. Look at all those deadlines and how it affects elections going forward. In El Paso County, I didn't know this till I started. Where do precincts come from? Just put a picture in your mind, and if I had been better at PowerPoints, I would have done this. But picture a map of El Paso County, right? It gets sliced and diced into precincts. And then it gets sliced and diced into the commissioners, the city council, community college district, you name it. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about how does that slicing and dicing happen, and how in an ideal world, politics shouldn't enter into it. Like, yeah, right, politics is, but, so all of these precincts, pretend, oops, I have another, yeah, all of these things, all that slicing and dicing happens multiple times. I like to picture the maps with it, you know, everybody look at maps with the old plastic overlay. All of these had their own little plastic overlay over the map of El Paso County. That's what it currently looks like for the county commissioners' districts. But the county commissioners create the precincts in the first place. That's their duty. They get the information at some point in the spring of the year after the census. Right now, El Paso County has 191 precincts. They could have more, they could have less. Some of it's just a very pragmatic thing of voting machines and people power and that sort of stuff. But this is how it's chopped and diced right now for the county commissioners are called precincts, not districts, which I find confusing. But for the 4 county commissioner precincts. The county judge is elected countywide, so everybody votes. But the staff at the county commission, for the county, sits down with their geographic information system specialist and an attorney, and I had 2 wonderful meetings this past week with 2 assistant county attorneys who worked on this after the 2010 census. Especially, is fun, right word? Hearing how this happened. I mean, they literally have to get down to not just the neighborhood level, but individual houses, because the way the census dices things up is not the same as the way the precincts end up. And there are people whose front yard is in, the county TL school district, whose backyard isn't. There are precincts where no one lives, but they do that for sort of the geographic continuity, the compactness of districts that we have to have. You know, and then they have to deal with the Department of Justice, because even at the local level, they until recently had to get that Department of Justice stamp of approval, and they've had to go back. It's in such granular detail that they finally adopted sort of a working rule of where your front door is where you vote.